The train doors were closing when my phone started vibrating for the fourth time. I almost ignored it. My international business exam was in 30 minutes, and Singapore's morning rush was pushing everyone forward in a blur of backpacks and umbrellas. Then I saw the caller ID. "Dad." I answered while jogging toward the escalator. "I'm heading to campus. Can this wait?" His voice was calm, too calm. "I used your college fund to clear my loans." I stopped so abruptly that a man behind me muttered in irritation. "What?" "You heard me. I paid everything off this morning. Credit cards, business loan, all of it." My stomach dropped. "Dad, my next tuition payment is due in 2 weeks." He laughed softly, like I was being dramatic. "You have scholarships. You didn't need that money anyway." I gripped the railing. That account was for tuition, housing, emergencies. "Be grateful," he interrupted. "I solved a family problem." The station noise seemed to disappear. He added one final sentence that made my blood run cold. "The transfer is already done. There's nothing to discuss." I stared at the crowd moving around me and said the only thing that came to mind. "Good luck with that." He chuckled. "Don't threaten me from another country." The line went dead. I stood there for a second, my exam forgotten, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Then I opened my banking app. 3 withdrawals. 1 transfer. A balance that was far lower than it should have been. My hands started shaking. That account wasn't just money. It was every scholarship refund I had saved, every birthday envelope my mother tucked away before she died, every weekend shift I worked during high school while my friends went out. Dad had promised me, that the fund would stay untouched until graduation. I tapped the international banking number with trembling fingers. After several minutes on hold, a representative answered. I explained the withdrawals, my voice tightening with every sentence. There was a pause. Then she asked, "Ms. Amani, are you calling about the trust authorization filed under your educational account?" I blinked. Trust authorization. My panic didn't disappear, but it changed shape. I moved to a quieter corner near the station wall. "Can you repeat that?" The representative lowered her voice. "A protected educational trust was registered on this account several months ago. I need to verify your identity before I discuss the transactions." A memory flickered. Papers, signatures, a private meeting at the bank before I left for Singapore. I whispered, "He really did it." At that exact moment, another call came through. The screen flashed. AMA Family Bank Manager. And suddenly, I knew this was much bigger than my father stealing my college fund. I stepped outside the exam building and answered the call before the first ring finished. "Ms. Amani," the bank manager asked, "this is Daniel from Amani Family Bank. I need to discuss a withdrawal attempt made this morning." My pulse hammered in my ears. Was the account emptied? There was a brief pause. A substantial withdrawal was attempted from the old family-linked account. However, a portion of the funds had previously been transferred into a protected educational trust, requiring dual authorization. I leaned against the concrete wall, outside the exam hall. Protected. For a second, I could breathe again. Then another memory hit me. 3 months before leaving for Singapore, Dad had started asking strange questions. "What's your online banking password again? Just in case something happens while you're abroad. Send me the security code when it arrives." At the time, I thought he was being protective. After Mom died, he always said, "I'm all you have left." But Mom had once told me something I never forgot. Education money should never sit in an account someone else can reach. A week before my flight, I noticed a small transfer I didn't recognize. Dad said it was a bank fee. That night, I secretly met with a bank advisor and signed documents creating the educational trust. I never told him. The manager's voice pulled me back. "Your protected funds remain under review, but I wanted to alert you immediately." I thanked him and ended the call. Dad didn't answer when I called. 5 minutes later, my aunt texted, "Your father says he finally handled your money wisely. He's celebrating with friends." I stared at the message until my vision blurred. The exam bell rang. I wiped my eyes, walked into the building, and sat for the exam anyway. Losing my scholarship would be the final victory he wanted. 3 hours later, exhausted and numb, I checked my phone. My younger cousin had sent a photo from a restaurant. Dad stood in the center of the table, smiling broadly, a glass raised in triumph. The caption read, "Debt-free at last." I almost deleted it. Then I zoomed in. Near his elbow lay a stack of papers. On the top page, clearly visible, was my full legal name. And beneath it, my account number. That night, my aunt sent a link to a family video call. I joined expecting an apology. Instead, I walked into applause. My father sat at the head of the screen, smiling while relatives congratulated him. "Victor, you finally cleared those debts. Proud of you, brother." Dad noticed me and leaned back in his chair. "Ah, the student has arrived." I kept my voice steady. "Did you use my account?" He waved a hand dismissively. "Nelcy is overreacting. Living overseas has made her selfish." An uncle frowned at me. "If the money was family money, why are you making such a scene?" The words stung more than I expected. I took a breath. "Dad, hold up the document that was on the restaurant table." His smile flickered. "What document?" "The one with my name and account number." He reached toward the table, then stopped. For a split second, the camera tilted, revealing a thick stack of bank papers. My aunt went silent. I spoke carefully. "That account was legally designated for educational use. Unauthorized withdrawals may constitute fraud." The entire call froze. Dad's expression hardened. "Listen to yourself. You're threatening your own father over money." "It isn't about money," I said. "It's about authority you never had." He laughed too loudly. "I used it to refinance my debts. That helps the whole family." Refinance. Not just pay a loan. He had used my education account as collateral. Before I could respond, a new participant appeared on the call. "Daniel, Amani Family Bank." Dad brightened immediately. "Perfect timing. Tell my daughter she's mistaken." The bank manager adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Amani, I need to confirm something for the record. Did you sign the disclosure acknowledging the trust restrictions attached to the educational account?" Dad answered without hesitation. "Of course I signed it." I didn't move. The manager looked directly into the camera. "Mr. Amani," he said slowly, "by signing that form, you confirmed that you possessed authority you did not, in fact, possess." The smile vanished from my father's face. And before anyone could speak, the call disconnected. The screen went black. For 3 seconds, I sat in silence, staring at my own reflection. Then my phone exploded. "Aunt Miriam, Nelcy, what did the banker mean?" "Uncle Peter, call me immediately." "Cousin Leela, is Dad in trouble?" I didn't answer any of them. I was still trying to process the look on my father's face before he ended the call. It was the first time that day he had looked afraid. A new email arrived from the bank. Subject: refinancing application suspended pending review. My hands tightened around the phone. A minute later, another message came through, this time from Daniel, the bank manager. Attached were copies of the trust documents I had signed before leaving for Singapore. My father's digital signature appeared on the disclosure page. He had acknowledged the restrictions. He knew. Suddenly, every earlier clue snapped into place. The repeated password requests, the unexplained transfer, the papers on the restaurant table, his confidence during the family call. He hadn't acted impulsively. He had acted as if my future belonged to him. Daniel called again. "Ms. Amani, I need to clarify something," he said. "The protected trust funds remain intact. The money withdrawn came from the accessible portion of the account, but Mr. Amani was not authorized to use those funds for personal debt obligations." Relief washed through me so sharply it hurt. My tuition was safe. Before I could speak, another call came through. "Dad." I answered. His voice was completely different now. No swagger, no laughter. "Nelcy, listen to me. This is a misunderstanding. I need you to send a statement saying you approved the withdrawal." "No. Please, the bank froze my refinancing application." "I'll communicate through the bank." His breathing grew heavier. "My business account is under review. The mortgage payment is due next week. If they hold the funds, I could lose the house." I closed my eyes. "You should have thought about that before taking my college fund." His tone sharpened. "You're ruining this family." I spoke quietly. "You ruined it when you chose my future over your debts." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then an email notification appeared at the top of my screen. "Notice of fraud review and asset hold." I read the subject line once. Then again. And my father stopped talking. I opened the email while my father was still on the line. The message was blunt. "Notice of fraud review and asset hold." The bank had determined that Victor Amani had misrepresented his authority over the educational account and used restricted funds to support a personal debt refinancing application. Pending final review, certain business and personal assets were being held. I heard my father inhale sharply. "Dad," I said, "they have your signature." Silence. The bank attached the disclosure form he had signed. In black and white, it stated that he understood the account carried educational trust restrictions and that he was not authorized to pledge those funds for personal obligations. He had signed anyway. The withdrawn amount was being charged back against his personal liabilities, and the refinancing agreement had already been canceled. 2 days later, my aunt called me from home. "Victor is here," she whispered. I could hear shouting in the background. When she turned on video, I saw my father standing in her living room, demanding that relatives help him until the bank fixed the mistake. Uncle Peter crossed his arms. "You used your daughter's education money." "I was going to replace it," Dad snapped. My aunt shook her head. "You told us she was selfish. You never said it was her college fund." I watched my uncle pull out his phone and delete the congratulatory post he had written about Dad becoming debt-free. No one defended him anymore. That night, Dad called me 7 times. The 8th time, I answered. First, he cried. Then he apologized. Then he blamed stress, the economy, his business partners, everyone except himself. Finally, he whispered, "Please help me." I asked one question. "When were you planning to tell me before tuition was due?" He said nothing. I waited. Still nothing. I ended the call. Over the next month, the consequences spread quickly. His credit score collapsed. The bank accelerated repayment on several loans. A supplier suspended his business account after learning about the fraud review. Relatives stopped lending him money. Meanwhile, my tuition payment went through on schedule. The protected trust covered my housing and fees, and I accepted a paid internship with an international trade firm in Singapore. For the first time in my life, every financial decision belonged to me alone. I changed every password, appointed an independent trustee, and removed my father from every authorization connected to my accounts. Then I wrote him one final email. I told him the real loss was not the money, it was trust. I told him future contact would require accountability and repayment, not excuses. Months passed. I graduated at the top of my class. At commencement, I looked toward the row reserved for family. My father's seat was empty. Beside me sat Professor Tan, the mentor who had helped me navigate the crisis. He stood and applauded when my name was called. For a moment, I felt the ache of that empty chair. Then I realized something surprising. I no longer felt abandoned. After the ceremony, I walked out of the university auditorium into bright afternoon sunlight, diploma in one hand, internship contract in the other. My phone stayed silent in my pocket, and I let it stay silent. My father thought my college fund was his escape from debt. Instead, it became the proof that cost him everything.